All right, let's talk now about stop signs. These are extremely important. The stop signs are what help you know when one chunk ends and the next chunk begins. Please pay attention to stop signs. Just like when you're driving, if you don't stop at the stop sign, bad things are going to happen. So, what are stop signs? To know when one chunk stops and the next begins, look for stop signs. The three most common stop signs are punctuation marks, especially commas, prepositions, and unconnected words. Let's first look at commas. In 1 week, the Patriots and the Eagles will play in the Super Bowl, which will be held in Minnesota. Here we have 2 commas. These are stop signs. So the chunks are in 1 week. Don't include the comma in the chunk. The Patriots and the Eagles will play in the Super Bowl, comma, stop sign, which will be held in Minnesota. There are exceptions to the comma rule. Most commas are stop signs. However, sometimes commas are used to combine lists instead of and. These commas are part of the chunk and should be included. You must type them. For example, we found a beautiful, inexpensive hotel near the beach in Honolulu, Hawaii on the internet. The first chunk goes all the way to hotel. This comma is combining 2 adjectives, beautiful and inexpensive. So it's not a stop sign. Next chunk, near the beach. Then in Honolulu, Hawaii. The comma here is combining the city and the state. So it is part of the chunk, not a stop sign. And finally, on the internet. So the first comma again is combining the 2 adjectives, beautiful and inexpensive. The second comma is combining the city Honolulu and the state Hawaii. Okay, the second most common stop sign is a preposition. Prepositions are the short little words, they're usually short, that connect nouns to sentences. Prepositions are always stop signs. This is important. Prepositions are the #1 stop sign. For example, let's look at this sentence from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry and Ron edged out of the kitchen, and they, Hermione and Ginny, set off along the narrow hallway and up the rickety staircase that zigzagged through the house to the upper stories. Well, starts off with Harry and Ron edged. Then you go to out of, which is a preposition, so it is a stop sign, the beginning of a new chunk. And is unconnected, so next is they, Hermione, and Ginny set off along the narrow hallway. And again is unconnected, so up the rickety staircase that zigzagged through the house to the upper stories. Out of, along, up, through, and to are prepositions, so they are all stop signs and the first word of each chunk. So, prepositions are stop signs. However, you have to be careful of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are 2-word verbs that include a word that looks like a preposition, like up, to, or off. Let's look at this sentence. Before Japanese people go into a house, they take off their shoes and put on a pair of slippers. This sentence can be divided into these chunks. Before people go into a house, they take off their shoes, put on a pair of slippers. Take off and put on are phrasal verbs. However, go into is not a phrasal verb. Go is the main verb and into is a preposition. So you have to be careful of phrasal verbs. Also, and is an unconnected word because it is combining two main verbs. Each main verb is a part of a new chunk, whether it has a subject or not. This is very important. New main verb, new chunk. And that's enough for this part of the lesson. We'll stop here for now, do some more chunking, and if you have some more questions, go on to the next videos.